I come from a very wealthy family. This isn't just about money in the bank, but the kind of wealth that's been passed down through generations. It's the kind of legacy that's built on businesses, investments, and a name that carries weight. I'm the only daughter in my family, and growing up, it was always expected that I would follow in the footsteps of the men who came before me, my father and my grandfather. They built an empire, and my dad had this vision of me stepping into the world one day, taking my place in the family business and continuing the legacy. But that was never my dream. What I really wanted was to be an artist, just like my mom. She's always had this gentle, creative soul, and from a very young age. She noticed that I had that same spark in me. She saw how naturally I took to painting, how I could lose myself for hours with a brush in my hand. While my dad was focused on business and boardrooms, my mom was the one who nurtured my creativity. She believed in me. She gave me the freedom to explore that side of myself and never once made me feel like I had to be someone I wasn't. All through school, I kept painting. I even won several awards, and every time I did, my mom was right there cheering me on. Her support gave me the courage to chase what I loved, even when my dad didn't approve. When it came time to choose a path for college, I chose art. I followed my heart, not the family blueprint. It wasn't easy, especially with my dad being disappointed, but I knew I had to do it for myself. During my first year of college, everything in my life changed. My mom passed away in a tragic accident, killed by a drunk driver. It was so sudden, so cruel. One moment she was there, full of life and warmth, and the next, she was gone. Losing her broke something inside me. She wasn't just my mother, she was my biggest supporter, my best friend, the one person who truly understood me and believed in the path I'd chosen. My dad and I mourned her deeply. It was a heavy, silent kind of grief. We were both devastated, but we processed it differently. For me, it was like the light in my world had gone out. For my dad, I think it shattered his sense of control, and maybe in his mind, the only way to make sense of the loss was to tighten his grip on what he could still hold on to, me, and the future he had always envisioned for me. After her death, things started to shift quickly. My mom had left all of her inheritance to me. I was her only child. And I know she did it because she trusted me to use it in a way that stayed true to myself. But not long after the funeral, my dad became relentless about one thing. He wanted me to abandon my art degree and switch to business. He kept saying things like, "It's time to get serious," and "You need to carry on the family legacy now." He became obsessed with the idea of me stepping into the role he had always imagined for me, as if that would somehow make up for losing her. I understood where he was coming from, but I couldn't walk away from my art, especially not after everything my mom had done to encourage it. She believed in me, and I believed in myself. Business just wasn't my world. It never had been. When my dad realized he couldn't bend me to his will by just pushing his ideas or using words, he switched tactics. He started pressuring me with money. Suddenly, the support I had been getting from him for college became conditional. He made it very clear that if I didn't drop my art degree and switch to studying business like he wanted, he would stop paying my tuition. But I wasn't helpless. I had my mother's inheritance, everything she had left to me. So I told him calmly but firmly that I would use what mom had left behind to finish my studies on my own. I reminded him quietly that if mom was still here, she would want me to follow my passion and be true to myself. It wasn't about defying him. It was about honoring her memory and her belief in me. Then he changed his tactics again and started threatening me with the inheritance he controlled. everything he had worked for all these years, all the assets and wealth he had saved and built up. He told me he might decide not to leave any of it to me if I didn't fall in line. It felt like another kind of pressure, and honestly, it hurt deeply. But I told him that he could do whatever he wanted with his money, and no matter what he decided, I would respect his choices. I told him that money and inheritance weren't the things that defined my relationship with him or my worth. I wanted him to know that my love and respect weren't up for sale or bargaining. I was standing on my own feet, and whatever happened, I would keep moving forward, following the path that felt right to me. During this already difficult time, my uncle, who is a snake in disguise, saw an opportunity to dig his claws deeper. You see, my uncle has 2 kids, a son and a daughter. His daughter, like me, didn't want anything to do with the family business, but his son was exactly what my uncle wanted. Someone ready and eager to follow in his footsteps and carry on the family legacy. My uncle loved to brag about his son all the time, making sure everyone knew how perfect he was for the business. When my uncle first found out I was pursuing an art degree, he didn't just disagree quietly. He bullied me alongside my dad. At every family event, they would publicly humiliate me. They'd say things like, "That degree is worthless," or "You'll be out of a job the minute you graduate." It was humiliating, and honestly, it hurt more coming from family than anyone else. They acted like my dreams were a joke. But it got worse. When my uncle found out my dad was serious about cutting me out of his inheritance and that I wasn't giving in to my dad's demands, my uncle saw a chance to push his own agenda. He started whispering in my dad's ear, convincing him that it would be better, far better, to leave everything to my uncle's son, the responsible one, rather than to me, the art major loser. He played on my dad's frustration and disappointment, pushing hard to make sure my dad's assets would go to his own son instead of me. Of course, my dad had his own thoughts and feelings about it, but my uncle was persistent and clever. He kept planting the idea until eventually my dad made a decision that broke my heart. He changed his will and transferred my share of the inheritance to my uncle's son. That decision crushed me. Up until then, I had been holding on to this hope, telling myself that maybe my dad didn't hate me as much as it felt like he did, that maybe he still cared deep down, even if he was disappointed. But when I found out he had changed his will to cut me out and give everything to my uncle's son, all those hopes were shattered. It made it painfully clear exactly where I stood in his life. To him, I was only worth something if I did what he wanted, if I gave up my art and took over the business. Otherwise, I was just someone he could push aside. That realization broke something in me. I decided I was done trying to win his approval or fight for a place in his world. I couldn't keep chasing a relationship where I wasn't valued for who I really was. Since then, I've gone low contact with my dad. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was necessary for my own peace. Back in December, when he had a major surgery and was in the hospital, he expected me to be there for him, to take care of him during his recovery. But I didn't even pick up his calls. I firmly told him to ask my uncle's son to take care of him. After all, if he was willing to take everything my dad had worked for, the inheritance, then it made sense that he should be the one to look after my father now. It was a painful moment, but also a clear boundary I had to set for myself. Anyways, I graduated from college, and over time I built a life for myself on my own terms. I work with some very powerful, wealthy clients, helping them source art. It's a job that lets me combine my passion with my skills, and it feels incredibly rewarding. As for my family relationships, the only people I talk to are my paternal grandparents and my uncle's daughter. They're the only ones who really understand where I'm coming from and respect my decision to distance myself from the rest of the family. I'm the one who actually takes care of my grandparents, and honestly, I don't mind at all. They love me unconditionally, just like my mom did, and being there for them is one way I can return some of that love. I make that 2 hour drive regularly just to visit them because I know how important it is to be there. I bring them their favorite snacks and I always make sure their medications are organized and that nothing is missing. Whenever one of them isn't feeling well, I'm the one who takes them to medical checkups, sitting with them through appointments and making sure they're getting the care they need. My uncle's daughter helps out too, but she has her own family to take care of, so she can't dedicate as much time as I do. This year has been rough for the family business while my dad has been recovering from his surgery and hasn't been able to really focus on the company. My uncle took control and made some terrible decisions. Because of those moves, the business has suffered some heavy losses. My grandfather has been furious about it. He's yelled at my uncle more times than I can count, letting him know exactly how disappointed he is. I won't lie, part of me has been quietly relishing watching this unfold. Every time my uncle messes up again and the business losses hit the local news, I've sent my grandfather a news clip or a photo of the article. It always gets under my grandfather's skin, and he immediately vents to me about how badly he feels my uncle has let the family down. It's like a small, satisfying justice for me, seeing that the uncle who tried to take everything from me is now the one causing problems. To make things even worse for my uncle, his wife, who is now soon to be his ex-wife, exposed something no one had any idea about: his drug problem. It actually made a lot of sense once the news came out. At every family event, I have seen my uncle always sneaking off to the washroom, acting strange, and nobody really knew why. His wife had long suspected something was wrong with him, but it took her a while to find solid proof because he's such a good liar. She caught him red-handed at a strip club, getting lap dances from another woman and doing hard drugs. His ex-wife was so furious that she made a scene in front of everyone. She also took pictures, which she later circulated to everyone in his contact list just to have her revenge. As you can imagine, this affected my uncle's reputation hard. Some of our clients, people who had been working with the family for years, started to question if they wanted to continue doing business with us. When our uncle was doing such disgusting things, it's understandable. No one wants to be involved with a company owner that's struggling and dealing with such serious issues behind the scenes. My grandfather was furious, even more than before. The business was already suffering because of my uncle's bad decisions, but now this betrayal added a whole new layer of disappointment and frustration. It's like everything was unraveling all at once, and my grandfather felt like the whole family legacy was at risk. 2 months ago, my grandparents brought up the topic of their wills all on their own. Since I'm really close to them and they trust me, they wanted to hear my opinion about what they should do. When they asked, I didn't hesitate. I was very straightforward with them. I told them clearly that they wouldn't leave anything for my uncle. I explained why. He's a drug addict, a liar, and he's already caused the family business to lose thousands of dollars because of his reckless decisions. I also told them that if my uncle got any part of my grandfather's inheritance, there was no guarantee he wouldn't just use it to fuel his addiction. I didn't want their hard-earned money to end up enabling the same destructive behavior that's already hurt the family so much. After hearing me out, both of them agreed with what I said. They felt the same way about my uncle being unstable and untrustworthy. They couldn't trust him anymore to protect their legacy. Honestly, I had almost forgotten about the whole conversation with my grandparents about their wills until yesterday. You see, I just celebrated my 30th birthday and I went all out. I threw a big celebration, inviting all my friends and of course my grandparents. It was a joyful, lively day filled with laughter and warmth, the kind of day that made me feel truly loved and surrounded by people who care. But the biggest surprise came when my grandfather stood up in front of everyone. With a smile, he told me that on the occasion of my birthday, he and Grandma had made a decision. They wanted to give me my entire inheritance that they had always wanted me to have, so I could continue to pursue my dream of one day having my own art gallery. Hearing that in front of all my friends and family was overwhelming. I was completely caught off guard because I hadn't expected anything like that. Their gesture was a powerful reminder that they believed in me, respected my choices, and wanted to support my future. It felt like the kind of unconditional love my mom always showed me, and I realized how lucky I am to have my grandparents by my side. Later, after the party had settled down, my grandfather pulled me aside for a private conversation. He told me something I wasn't quite prepared for, that the inheritance I was about to receive wasn't just their portion, but it actually included my uncle's share as well. He explained that my uncle wouldn't be getting anything more than a single dollar. I didn't know what to say at first. Honestly, I was speechless. All I could do was quietly thank my grandparents for trusting me with something so important. They asked me to keep this news just between us for now because they planned to have a family lunch soon where they would officially announce everything. They wanted to handle it carefully, and I understood why. But ever since that day, I haven't been able to shake this feeling of guilt. Just to be clear, the inheritance I'm receiving from my grandparents is actually 5 times the amount that my uncle took away from me. Part of me feels like I should not be taking my uncle's share of the inheritance also, as if he might need it in the future. But there's this other part of me that resents my uncle for convincing my dad to give away my rightful inheritance to his own son. Hence, I feel he deserves this. So Reddit, AITA for accepting my uncle's share of the inheritance from my grandparents. Update 1. Since I shared my story, I've gotten a lot of questions from people who want to understand more about my situation. I thought I'd answer some of the most common ones here. Why didn't I just give in and switch to a business degree to keep the peace with my dad? Well, I really tried to understand where he was coming from. But I knew deep down that business wasn't my strength or passion. Giving up my art degree would have meant giving up who I am. I needed to stand firm for myself, even if it meant making things difficult at home. Did I ever try to reconcile with my dad after everything? I tried initially, but dad can be very cold to people. Honestly, I don't see a real chance for reconciliation unless he accepts me for who I am and what I do. I don't see that happening anytime soon. How did I feel about my uncle after he took away my inheritance? I won't pretend I don't resent him for how he treated me and how he influenced my dad, but I tried to focus on my own life and what I can control. His actions caused a lot of damage, and now the consequences are catching up to him. Also, I want to be very clear that my dad is equally to blame in this whole mess. It wasn't just my uncle who wronged me. My dad also made the decision to give my inheritance away to my uncle's son instead of standing by me. I never said I didn't hold my dad responsible too. That betrayal cut deep, and it's part of why our relationship has been so strained. Both of them played a role in trying to take what was rightfully mine, and that's something I can't forget. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and a lot has happened since then. First of all, my grandparents went ahead and told the rest of the family about their decisions regarding how they're dividing up their assets. Even though they're still giving my dad a share of their inheritance, they made it very clear that my uncle won't be getting anything. They don't want him to waste away their hard-earned money, which I completely understand. My uncle seemed taken aback. My grandparents also announced that my cousins my uncle's son and daughter would be receiving a part of the inheritance as well. But the biggest share by far is going to me. My grandfather made it very clear during the family gathering that out of all the grandchildren, I was the one who truly cared for and looked after them. He reminded everyone how I've had a close relationship with them for years and how I've been there for them through thick and thin, like a daughter more than just a granddaughter. They love me deeply, and that love has been something real and constant in my life. They didn't hold back when it came to how badly my own father treated me after Mom passed away. My grandparents acknowledged that openly, and they said I deserved to receive more of the family inheritance than anyone else present. They said they trusted me to use their wealth wisely and responsibly, and that meant more to me than words can say. My dad and uncle were clearly furious when they heard the news about how my grandparents divided their inheritance. But it was my uncle who really lost it. He started yelling loudly, completely out of control, calling me a loser and accusing me of somehow manipulating my grandparents into giving me their wealth. He went even further, throwing hurtful insults my way, calling me a cunning gold digger. He also called me a manipulative and cunning a-hole. At one point, he even got way too close to me, his anger almost intimidating. But I didn't back down. I shot back just as sharp. You think calling me names makes you look tough? Please. You're nothing but a washed-up junkie who's burned every bridge in this family. You're the one who's been manipulating everyone for years, lying, cheating, and wasting what little you have. So save your breath, because no one's buying your act. I held my ground and stared him down. If being a gold digger means actually working hard and staying loyal to the people who love me, then yeah, I'm guilty as charged. But you're just a parasite and everyone sees right through you. Hearing what I said, my dad immediately shouted at me, accused me of being disrespectful. Then my uncle's son jumped in, yelling at me for talking that way to family. But I wasn't having it. I fired back, telling all of them to get off their high horses and stop treating me like I was less than them. I reminded them all that unlike them, I wasn't handed things on a silver platter. I worked hard and earned my place. Then I looked directly at my dad and said, "You betrayed me too, by giving my inheritance away to my uncle's son. And I kept my mouth shut about it all this time. So now, if my grandparents want to give me my uncle's share, why am I the one being blamed and attacked?" I wasn't going to take their unfair judgment lying down. My grandfather also yelled back at my uncle and dad, making it crystal clear to them that the decision he and Grandma had made was final. They had no right to argue with me or try to challenge what was theirs to decide. My uncle, showing his true colors, had the audacity to threaten to sue them and take the whole thing to court, but my grandfather didn't flinch. He warned my uncle sharply that his lawyers would absolutely tear him apart if he tried. And he made it clear that if my uncle kept pushing, his own children wouldn't get a single penny either. That shut my uncle right up. He didn't say another word, but kept shooting angry glares at me. It was obvious. He was furious. But my grandfather's words had put a solid stop to all the arguing. Ever since the family party, things have taken a darker turn. Initially, both my dad and uncle bombarded me with messages, text after text, telling me I shouldn't accept my grandparents' inheritance. They said if I had any self-respect, I should just sign everything over to my uncle, as it rightfully belonged to him anyways. It was exhausting and frustrating, so I refused to engage. I didn't reply to a single message and ended up simply blocking them both. But it didn't stop there. My uncle started contacting me from different phone numbers, trying to get through in any way he could. The worst moment was when he showed up at my house in the middle of the night one time, completely drunk and unannounced. I was shocked and scared, but I stayed calm and told him I would call the police if he didn't leave immediately. Thankfully, He left after that, but the whole experience left me feeling really unsafe. It's clear now that he's desperate to get his hands on the money. The way he's acting is unsettling, and I'm starting to worry about what he might do next. I'm doing my best to stay strong, but this is becoming more than just a family feud. It feels threatening. Update 3. This week I was home alone trying to relax after a long day when I heard loud, violent banging on my front door. The banging quickly turned into pounding, hard enough to make the entire door shake. I looked through the peephole and my blood ran cold. It was my uncle. His eyes were wild, bloodshot. He looked like he was drunk. I shouted at him through the door to go away, but he kept demanding that I open the door. He also threatened that he had a gun, which was scary. I didn't respond, hoping that he would eventually go away, but it didn't stop him. Moments later, he started to force my door open. I could hear the wood splintering and cracking under his strength. He was trying to push his way inside, staggering but determined, slurring threats and curses. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I immediately ran upstairs and called 911 with trembling hands. Meanwhile, I heard my uncle break the door open. He was then shouting my name and smashing things around the house, throwing furniture, breaking glass. The noise was terrifying. He tried to break down the bedroom door where I was hiding, yelling how he was going to teach me a lesson and take what's his, and was threatening me in ways I can't repeat. I was petrified but stayed as quiet as I could, praying for the police to arrive. When the police arrived, they arrested him on the spot. That night, I realized this wasn't just family drama anymore. It was a real danger. I couldn't risk my safety anymore. So the very next day, with the full support of my grandparents, I contacted a lawyer to file for a restraining order against my uncle. Currently, I am terrified to go back home, so I'm staying over at my boyfriend's place where I feel quite safe. My boyfriend has installed security cameras and reinforced my home's locks to make sure something like this never happens again. But I am still terrified. Update 4. A few days after everything happened, my grandparents asked me to come over to their house, and when I arrived, I was surprised to see my dad there. He looked different, worried and tense, like something was weighing heavily on him. Before I could say anything, he walked right up to me, pulled me into a tight hug. It caught me off guard, but I didn't pull away. Then, with genuine emotion in his voice, he started apologizing. He said he had no idea my uncle would take things so far, that he never imagined the situation would escalate like this. He admitted he was wrong to take my uncle's side all this time. And hearing what had happened, especially that my uncle had broken into my house with a gun, had shaken him to his core. He said he was furious with his brother and deeply sorry for not supporting me sooner. My dad told me he wanted to make things right. He promised to stand by me and help fight against my uncle in court. It was a moment I never expected, but hearing his apology and seeing the genuine regret in his eyes gave me hope that maybe things could start to heal. Update 5. It's been a few months since everything happened and the ongoing court case finally came to a close. My uncle was sentenced to 2 years in jail, not only for breaking into my house with a gun, but also for possession of drugs. During the trial, he kept crying and begging the judge for another chance, but the judge was strict and didn't buy any of his act. Honestly, I feel relieved that he's gone. The constant fear and threats are behind me now, and I can finally breathe a little easier. Throughout all this, my grandparents and my uncle's daughter, the cousin I've always been close to, stood firmly by my side. She still can't believe her father could do something so terrible, and she understands why I had to call the police on him. On the other hand, my uncle's son thinks I'm to blame for their father's arrest. Even though he's angry at me, he hasn't said much, as he knows everyone has my back. Now, coming to my dad, our relationship has actually improved. He's been making a genuine effort to support me, even showing interest in my art career. It's a small step, but it feels like a good start. And I'm hopeful we can get even more closer with time. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.